Hello everyone, I'm Penrose776. We're looking at the Special Heroes banner that we saw on the FEH channel. So we already know who's on this banner, but still there's the question of their kit, starting with Cath, the Caper Captain. What a wonderful name. I know who Cath is. Yeah. Cath is a blue tome cavalry, and already looking at the first unit of the banner. Wow, that is a lot of text. Oh baby, that is a lot of text, and already I am seeing something kind of messed up here. Enables Canto unit 3x3. I'm not saying that they've power crept Canto 3, but it looks to me like they've power crept Canto 3 potentially. We'll see what that means when we get there. But grants speed +3 at start of combat if foe's HP is greater than or equal to 50%. Grants attack speed +6 to unit during combat. Deals damage equal to 15% of unit speed. And also, if foe has bonuses, grants bonus to units attack speed, defense, res, and inflicts penalty on foe's attack speed, defense, res during combat equal to current bonus on each of foe's stats. Calculates each bonus and penalty independently. So that is attack speed +6, 15% true damage, and the buff stealing effect of Freya's Binding Necklace, I think is the last place we saw this. I might be wrong. It may have showed up somewhere else, but it's Binding Necklace is where I remember it from. And on Binding Necklace, it was pretty dang good. Here, I also expect it to be pretty dang good, especially since there are a lot of units these days that hand out buffs like candy. Think of your Ashera, think of your Medeus, think of other units. I can't think of any other units. Those are the only two I can remember. But there are basically a lot of really useful effects. Elamine, another one, come to think of it, are tied to also getting given free buffs at the same time, except if those free buffs are getting turned into buffs for your opponent instead, maybe they're not so free. And then Canto unit 3x3. After an attack, assist skill, or structure destruction, the unit can move to a space within 3 rows and 3 columns centered on unit. Okay, so it's not quite power creeping Canto 3. 3 rows and 3 columns is basically a 3x3 square centered on units, so it is any move 1 square or 2 squares if it's a diagonal. Think of it kind of like a king move in chess, I guess. Pretty neat. Granted movement is treated as warp movement, so bear that in mind. It's a pretty useful Canto. Okay, if it was better than Canto 3, then I would have beaten someone up, but this is still a pretty strong unit, all things considered. True damage and buff stealing means they're probably at the upper echelons of Blue Tome cavalry units. As for the rest of their kit, drawback is a skill. Attack speed +4 is more or less the most generic A slot you can possibly get these days. Attack res snag is apparently new. I didn't realize this, but apparently this is the first time we've seen attack res snag ever. Is it a particularly big deal? Not really. Snag skills are solidly average, but in practice you'd rather have maybe a lull, maybe not a Canto skill on this unit, because I guess you've already got built-in Canto, right? But ruse also, in my experience, tends to be a lot better than snags, so snag works, but it's not really the optimal slot filler. And in the C slot, food free. The feud skills actually, I find, really effective for dealing with especially safe threats. If there's a specific safe threat you're looking at, those can get buffed up to high heaven by all manner of allies just sitting in a little huddle around them. Feud skills, say no to that. So literally I've got blue feud on Jafar, actually. Anyone who's seen my defense team, so a big fan of them just handing out more feud skills. I don't see why Cath particularly needs it, but sure, she can have it. Why not? All in all, yeah, pretty decent blue tome cavalry. It's a pretty highly contested cavalry, of course. Reinhardt, the classic, and there's some others more recently as well, but she seems competitive, all things considered. Let's keep going, shall we? Since it's a calling card, I'm really interested to see what the animations look like. Well, actually, I think we've seen the animations already, but ooh, the spotlights and then the shoop. And yep, as confirmed, there's that King's move, Canto. Next up, Leila. Keen lookout. I've already said this on the FEH channel reactions, but I love her art. And let's take a look at her kit. Soothing Scent is her weapon. She is a red tome flyer. And she also has a funky Canto skill, Canto Ally 2. We'll get to that when we get to that. As for the rest of her kit, accelerates special trigger, cooldown count -1. At start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants attack speed +6 to unit during combat, and also, if unit's speed is greater than foe's speed, foe cannot counterattack. If unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25% at start of combat and unit attacks. Okay, I don't know why we had to duplicate up that condition. But after combat, deals 10 damage to target and foes within 2 spaces of target. And then Canto Ally 2. After an attack, assist skill, or structure destruction, unit can move to a space adjacent to any ally within 2 spaces. So that's potentially up to a free space Canto, but only if there is an ally in range to do it to. I was going to say something like assist you late, but that's not a real word. Another interesting new Canto, requiring an ally nearby makes it, in my opinion, maybe a bit weaker than some of the flat move Cantos for just your regular hit and run style strats, because oftentimes you'll have been smited in, or you'll have been repositioned in, and so naturally using your full movement is going to put you further than 2 spaces away from your ally. But in situations where you're already in close, like if you're going in using Wings of Mercy, for instance, that has changed the equation a little bit, because after a Wings of Mercy move, normally you wouldn't get to Canto at all, because you've used all your movement on that warp, right? But this says to me, maybe Wings of Mercy, maybe some other warp-based movement skill to get in, and then on the way out, you get your funky little Canto Ally 2. Neat. Aside from that, Fast Special is good, and then you've got the combo of the Wind Sweep, Water Sweep type effect, Double Sweep, Full Sweep, All Sweep, attack speed +6, and a Poison Strike, Savage Blow kind of deal. It's a 10 damage Savage Blow. It's Savage Blow 4. Those are a great combination, by the way, the sweep and the true damage AoE afterwards. Love it. So definitely a great unit for softening targets up. The sweep lets you attack for free. The true damage means that even if you're not doing damage, which she had a pretty aggressive stat line, so hopefully she's doing at least some damage, you are making all those units just sitting there a little more juicy for your allies to then come in and finish up the job. Moonbow is her special, goes pretty well with her slaying effect. 2 cooldown special, run at 1 cooldown. You can get that every combat so long as you're getting follow-up attack. Pretty neat. The A slot, Swift Sparrow 3, which isn't attack speed push 4, but, well, it's basically as close as you're going to get. And in the C slot, Defense Res Smoke 3. Wait a second. You get both of these? What? I mean, after Attack Smoke 4 and Speed Smoke 4, I was expecting like Defense Smoke 4 and Res Smoke 4. Not for us to glue both of them together into one single Smoke 3. Alright, what does it do after combat? Inflicts defense res -7 on target and foes within 2 spaces of target through their next actions. Grants attack +6 to unit and allies within 2 spaces of unit for 1 turn. And grants Pathfinder to unit for 1 turn. Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. What the hell's going on here? Okay, so... Well, it's a double smoke, so basically you can stick this on any unit to turn them into a dagger unit, but more importantly, any unit who takes a combat with this smoke skill on them is getting Pathfinder for free. Free Pathfinder. And on your like offensive go in and do stuff shenanigans, having free Pathfinder is going to make moving around and doing various things considerably easier, I expect. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how that fits in with the warp-in strategy I was saying before, but even if you're just next to an ally with your Canto, that ally can now benefit with Pathfinder in whichever direction you've blocked yourself in. Pretty wild. Yeah, that seems very, very silly. Very silly, very stupid, very foolish. Very much I want this on a lot of units. Probably one of the best skills around there for any sort of Gale Force team that's not running already something like a, I don't know, Pulse, times Pulse, whatever, in the C slot for acceleration. This is probably one of the next best things you can run, honestly. Yeah. So another new Canto, another very silly unit, and another new... Come to think of it, this is the first skill in the game which is giving us just Pathfinder on anything. Except for like Duodao. This is the first inheritable skill you can use to inherit Pathfinder on units. Yeah, chalk that one up as a solid hoo boy. Let's keep going, shall we? I said let's keep going, shall we? Yeah, here we go.
Show me your valuables.
I'm not showing you my orbs, Leila. Not yet. Let's see what else is on the banner first. And as expected, there's the Canto, yep, adjacent to an ally within... Also, Matthew was there, who is not appearing on this banner. Right, Sothe. What do you got, Sothe?
I'm not after anything in particular, but I would like to nab something from Micaiah.
Yep, we know. Sothe, as expected, looking pretty 4-star here. Interesting. Interesting indeed. The inheritable weapon, we were expecting it would be Canto remaining based on how they normally do the split between ranged units and physical units, but it's not Canto remaining. It is, in fact, enables Canto 1. Canto 1. So even if you use up all of your movement with this inheritable dagger, you still get 1 Canto, or 1 afterwards. Interesting, very interesting. In most scenarios on your 2 movement flyers, this is just flat gonna be better than a Canto remaining like you'd normally run in your B slot, because normally you're getting no Canto from that, or if you've moved at all, you're getting 1 Canto from that. The only time you ever get 2 Canto is if you've literally stood completely still. So Canto 1, just flat out pretty good. Harsh Command Plus scores well. That's basically all I have to say about it. Did I mention also the Inheritable Dagger gives attack speed +5? Because it does. At the start of combat, if foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, grants attack speed +5 to the unit during combat, and it's a dagger. We already knew it grants attack speed +5. 2 stats +5 is more or less the norm for inheritable weapons, but it's still nice that it gives you that. Yeah, Harsh Command scores well. Aside from that, I don't know who's running Harsh Command, honestly. Harsh Command Plus, even, because it's better than Harsh Command, because it actually doesn't get screwed over by panic. In the A slot, Swift Sparrow 2 is a skill. Very handy for inheriting Swift Sparrow 3 or Surge Sparrow. Aside from that, it is, I guess, one of the best A slots at the 2 level, or this level, the non-top level. You like having attack speed +4, what more can I say? But in his C slot, attack defense Rhine 3 is a very valuable skill indeed, for Rhine skills are just good, frankly. They're very good. I've used them before. They're good. Don't know what more I can say about them, honestly. Sothe, well, he's classy and he's got good inheritables. And his stats are decent, I guess. What more could you want from a 4-star special unit? Again, let's take a look at the animations on his florid knife. Well, that was definitely an animation, alright. And then, finally, a duo, shadowy figures. Nina and Kagero. They are a colorless dagger cavalry unit, and they are armed with Jesus Christ. They're not armed with Jesus Christ, they are armed with the Shadowy Quill. Enables Canto Recall. Yeah, that's yet another new Canto, by the way. We'll get to that when we get to that, because of course they put the effect at the end, yet again, but it's Canto Recall. Recall, not Recoil. That would be something different. Grants attack +3. If the unit initiates combat, or is within 2 spaces of an ally, calculates damage using the lower of foe's defense or res. Adaptive damage already very strong. Grants attack speed +6 to unit during combat, and deals damage equal to total of the greater between unit's current bonus or foe's current penalty to attack speed defense res. Calculates each value independently, excluding area of effect specials. Well, that seems a bit silly, doesn't it? What we have here then, it is... what is it? Adaptive damage, I pointed that out already. Attack speed +6, and then your pick of treachery or dominance. And by your pick, I mean the game's pick. And by the game's pick, I mean whichever one would be better for you. Notably, it's not actually treachery or dominance, so if you're getting dominance from somewhere else, you can stack them, haha. But these types of effects, gaining damage based on buffs or debuffs or buffs or debuffs, there are only 2 things there. I just felt the need to keep going. These have traditionally been some of the best ways to stack a ridiculous amount of damage in the game. Back when Blade Tome Vantage was for meta, Blade Tome Vantage was for meta. That's another tautology for you. But basically, yeah, you can get pretty easy 6-point buffs or debuffs, and with a bit of a stretch, you can make that a 7-point buff or debuff. With 6-point debuffs, that's 24 true damage, which is a lot. With 7-point debuffs, that's 28 true damage, which is more. Either way, nuts. So, yeah, and combine that with adaptive damage as well, you are looking at a unit who is pretty heavily gonna obliterate things. And I haven't even looked at what Canto Recall does. After an attack, assist skill, or structure destruction, the unit can return to the space they moved from. Okay, that's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's basically what people normally use Canto 3 for, more or less. On a Cath unit, you go over there, you hit something far away, and then you hit and run all the way back out. Classic Canto 3 maneuver. This doesn't mean you can't use this to sneak past enemies behind enemy lines. You've got to go back the way you came. So it's kind of less strong than Canto 3, which I appreciate. Because Canto 3 was busted, anyone who's used Yuri or Regin, for that matter, knows just how strong Canto 3 can be in the wrong hands. So this is kind of less busted variant of that. They have lethality. What is very funny is that they have no efficient way of charging lethality. Lethality is the best skill, the best special for daggers, but Nina and Kagero here are actually going to struggle a bit with charging that for cooldown special. This is probably a unit that I would not naturally run lethality. Because frankly, in most combats, they're not going to get a chance to reach lethality unless you're doing something very silly. They have no guaranteed follow-up. They have no damage reduction to get them to that, like, 4-charge place. The only way they're naturally getting this lethality at all is by getting hit a bunch and hitting people a bunch. Either that or they've already killed several units before they proc lethality, which generally isn't when you want lethality. You really want lethality in your first combat, because your first combat is almost always going to be against a far saver if you want lethality to go off at all. So yeah, frankly, lethality being on them is a bit silly. Huh. But, well, they have it, and I guess if you've got other ways of pulsing them down, like, I don't know, Duochrome, or Asker, or, you know, that kind of nonsense, you can still lethality to your heart's content that way, but it is definitely not a very straightforward way of proccing it. Haha. In the B slot, our first gold B slot, as we discussed earlier, chill, defense, res, free. What does a chill gold level do? At start of turn, inflicts defense res -6 on foe on the enemy team with the highest defense and res total, and foes within 2 spaces of that foe through their next actions. In other words, defense res -6 on the entire enemy team. Well, that's a bit much, isn't it? On the other hand, again, while this is a very strong skill, it is not necessarily the skill that this unit wants. I mean, it is kind of the skill that this unit wants, because you're getting that defense res penalty on the foe to boost up your dominance effect. But on the other hand, Nina doesn't really want the skill herself. Nina would much rather this skill was on literally anybody else, so that she could run a B slot that actually boosts her own combat potential, because she is very much a taking combats herself kind of a unit. And that's a weird trend going on here. We've got the kind of anti-synergetic lethality, and then we've got the synergetic but not really chill gold chill skill. Plus, she's got dagger 7, so after she attacks, she's applying a better defense res -7 on the enemy anyway. Funny that, and in the C slot, it's colorless feud 3. I said this earlier today, I'll say it again, feud skills, good. Don't know why Nina wants one. I guess colorless feud is pretty good for cutting out foes' damage reduction effects, because a lot of them are on colorless units. Flame, Elamine, that sort of nonsense. But besides that, well, I mean, it's a good skill, but it's not like any of the current fast save threats are colorless. Blue feud honestly a fair bit stronger for dealing with fast save at the moment, I would say. That might change in the future when new units come out, but for the moment, blue feud is where it's at, is what I'd say. Nonetheless, feud skills, not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And let's see her, whatever she's got going on. And also, she has a duo skill. I've remembered this. It always comes as a surprise to me when harmonic and duo units have duo skills. There's the Canto whatchamacallit. And here's the duo skill. Yes, I remembered it. Unit can move 1 extra space. Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. So for reference, the Canto go back to where you came from. It now seems a whole bunch sillier because, buddy, that's a 4-space Canto. That's a 4-space Canto. She is moving 1 extra space, and then she is cantoing 4 spaces all the way back home again. That's a total of 8 spaces you're going. Jump over there, jump back. It does more things as well. If any foes are in cardinal directions of unit, or if penalty is active on any foes, inflicts attack speed, defense, res -7, and panic on those foes. Okay, so her dominance, her built-in dominance is getting turbocharged here. Except for units that are immune to debuffs, what you have just done is gone up to maximum 28 dominance, and in fact you've gone beyond maximum 28 dominance, because if there are any buffs on them, which it is quite likely that there are, those are getting turned into even more debuffs. Say they're +6 to all stats, you've got 28 plus 24 equals, hoo boy, that's a lot of damage. 44? No, 54? 54 damage. True damage, by the way. So the only way you're escaping that is with damage reduction or being immune to debuffs, which, again, the top fast savers, Brave Hector, Ascendant Idan, both of those are immune to debuffs. So maybe we consider that. But for any other unit, you're looking pretty scared the moment this goes off. Yet again, this is yet another reason to keep your duo's hindrance safe, my friends, because so long as it is safe, you're not getting hit by this until after a launch of your units are already dead, at which point it's kind of too late. Once used, by the way, duo skill cannot be activated again right away, but at the start of every third turn, it gets refreshed. So you can theoretically pop this like 2 turns in a row. Even in Summoner's Duels, you can pop this multiple times, once on turn 2, once on the 3rd turn, I guess, or later, if you feel like it. Very silly. Very silly, and I mean, I've been talking about this in terms of boosting herself, but it does also boost the entire rest of your team as well. Like, having a bunch of penalties on foes is already great, but if you've got a bunch of penalties on foes and the rest of your team can take advantage of those penalties, that is double great. Did I mention she can move 1 extra space? Silly business. Don't let this unit do things, people. Anyway, that's it for the banner, I think. Those should be all the units, I think, I hope. Yeah, they're going to show off what it does now. People watching, in future, you're probably going to see a lot more of this, because, look, she's going all the way over here, absolutely obliterating this guy with lethality. 93 damage is very silly, and going all the way back to the square she came from. Here's the paralog. We already know who the Tempest Trials unit is. It is that guy right there, Ricard. And as we expected, Sothe is a 4-star focus unit. Now here's a question, are you rolling on this one? Are you rolling on this one? Because on the one hand, these units seem pretty good. They seem to have pretty good skills. On the other hand, you know what's coming up later this month, right? I'll tell you what is coming up later this month. It is Choose Your Legends. And you know what Choose Your Legends means. It means the same thing that Choose Your Legends means every year, which is we're moving to the next generation of busted heroes, and you're going to get a little taste of what those are like. Well, the good news is, actually, this banner runs long enough that there's really no point to summon on it straight away unless you want these units right now, because Choose Your Legends is probably going to come out while this banner is still running. Fancy that. So that's probably what I'm doing. I'm waiting. I'm waiting and hoping. Well, I'm not sure what I'm hoping for exactly, but I'm waiting and hoping I don't have to spend any orbs, I guess. But yeah, let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you think of these units. These seem... I like the fact that they're mixing up Canto a bit. I was worried that the new Cantos were going to be just turbo insano-modely busted, but they seem like about as busted as regular Canto, more or less. So... They're not like Canto 3 levels of busted necessarily, unless you're getting the full juice out of that extra movement. But aside from that, they seem more like normal levels of busted. But let me know what you think, let me know if you're rolling, and let me know if you're subscribing, because I'll probably be back for the next banner, whenever that happens, and whatever yours, it's Choose Your Legends. See you then. Penrust out.